welcome to Let's Talk AppSec. My name is Mark Lambert, VP of Products here at ArmorCode, and I'm joined by Louis Guzman, my very good friend and colleague. How are we doing, sir?
Doing excellent, and you?
Never better, never better. Okay, so let's talk about something that you know is like a little bit of a soapbox for me, and it's a carryover from my former life. Release gates or security guardrails. What and why? So here's the thing. The root cause between friction between development and security are gates. It's the you cannot release that functionality because I said so. This is the carrot versus stick thing. Now, the reason why this is a baggage carry for me is in a prior life, I was working for a SaaS vendor. We implemented something that would not let the development team check in code into their system unless it was clean from a SaaS perspective. Now, we knew this wouldn't work, but specific customers were asking for it. And the trouble is that whenever it was being used by the development team, what do you think they figured out how to do?
They had to work around it, right? So
they got bypassed it. They figured out a way around of getting around it. But when you think about it, there are times when you do have to block the build, right? It is a critical. We've got to make sure that we don't release with a certain level of vulnerability, or certainly from a quality perspective. If you're shipping software, if you've got an urgent or at the highest level priority defect, you don't want to release. That's a critical blocker for release. So how do we build in a way that we can enable our development team to move fast but not introduce risk? And this is where security guardrails come in. Okay, is that making sense?
That totally makes sense. And the big thing here is, right, the guardrail versus the gate. The guardrail is trying to keep you here. The gate is saying you cannot go past this, right? And so if we have everybody on the guardrails and everybody understands you're going to have guardrails, then there's a lot less you cannot go past this, right? And yeah. I think that's where we're getting, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And for me, a guardrail, imagine you're driving down the freeway or the mountain road, right? And the guardrail is supposed to stop you from going off the cliff, right? Mm-hmm. So if you've got let's say you just drift a little bit, you should get a nudge, right? So it's like, hey, you got a high severity vulnerability that is longer than 7 days old. You know what? We're gonna notify you. We're gonna not fail the build. We're gonna warn it, because you're gonna let's say our SLA, for example, is that it has to be fixed within 2 weeks. Okay, so you're gonna get a nudge, but a critical is gonna stop me from going off the bridge or going off the side of the road. Right, that one is gonna block the build. What this requires is that you have basically standardized operating procedures, so through the use of SLAs, and then you have agreed upon criteria for those guardrails. So you're monitoring the bumps and you're blocking the off the cliff thing. So and for me, that's kind of like the difference in how we think about it. Because developers don't want to be slowed down, right? I mean, it's like at the end of the day, they're motivated to get functionality out as quickly as possible.
And that motivation is usually characteristics of what it is that your management said, this is what we are expecting of you. We expect it at certain time and certain intervals, and you'll get compensated for that as well, right? We talk to Nikhil all the time, and he's like, look, we were compensated for getting things out fast.
Yeah.
Not secure.
And it's important that, and this is why, we're releasing on a weekly basis. Right, we're eating our own dog food, right? So the reason why we can release so quickly is because we have these processes in place, so that we are secure when we're releasing software, and we're not releasing when we have critical, even functional defects or critical security vulnerabilities. But what that means is there's a contract between our AppSec team and our development team, that the AppSec team will not raise something as critical unless it really is critical.
Right.
And the development team agree that they will remediate all of the criticals. So there has to be that contract, and then monitoring of that contract to make sure there's no abuse on either side. Because if my security team create 20 critical vulnerabilities or critical tickets for the development team to fix, guess what's probably going to happen? You're going to get a lot of pushback. So there has to be that negotiation. I think security champions play a role in this as well. What do you think?
I think they should play a huge role, but if they're eating dog food, they might not like it. So how about they drink their own champagne? Uh,
Okay. All right.
everybody's happier that way. It's bubbly, and,
It's
and
public.
and
Yes.
yeah, and having that champion there, understanding again, remember that communication that we've talked about so much, is being able to understand there's a workflow. Everybody understands these guardrails are here for a reason. It's so that you don't hurt yourself. We don't want you to go over the edge. We want you to stay here and be able to do it securely, do it quickly. And we promise not to give you a bunch of critical stuff that you're probably going to consider noise, right? That's the other thing is, that if I'm the security guy and I send it to you as a developer, you're going to look at it, is it noise right away? You're going to say,
Yeah.
is it noise? Nope, I don't want to hear it, right?
Yeah.
If it's not noise, I'm going to go ahead and listen to it. So
yeah, and then there's all the visibility on the reporting perspective, making sure that we're all consistent on SLAs. Every time we hit a bump, a guardrail, we want to know. Those are the visibility levels that we need to improve the process. All right, great conversation. Thank you for letting me get on my soapbox on this one. So, and thank you everybody for joining us today. Stay tuned for another Let's Talk AppSec.
bye.